most deserving and best in the college football playoff. Let's dive into these games. So now we've got our 4 quarterfinal matchups. We'll go deep on all of them. And as a reminder, we are going to have, a wrap-up pod after we get through these games. We'll have plenty of coverage leading into the semifinals. We're going to be here with you and rushing the field for the duration as we go through this run. Let's go in order of the games. Let's start on New Year's Eve, Fiesta Bowl. Boise State, Penn State. We were talking about this a little bit earlier. Boise State, number 3 seed, double-digit underdog here. So Penn State's favored by 10.5 points against Boise State. This game is obviously at the Fiesta Bowl, so they're out in Arizona. One quick note, which I think is going to be awesome, which we'll certainly see and hear on the broadcast, is Boise State is wearing their blue, white, orange uniforms. Then this is what they have worn in 3 Fiesta Bowls, all wins, but dating back to obviously their historic first Fiesta Bowl. They'll be wearing that uniform. Spencer Danielson was like, I have no choice. Like, of course we're going to wear that uniform in this game. So that's a cool storyline. And then as I was mentioning, I mean, just the way that he has talked about this, he's obviously aware that they are heavy underdogs in this game. So Spencer Danielson, head coach of Boise State, if nobody gives us a chance, if the point spread continues to grow, whatever, please count us out. That's what Boise State football is built on. People thinking we can't do anything, and we work our tails off to find a way to prove people wrong. I believe in our team, and we use the phrase, put the ball down. Doesn't matter the stadium or what fans are there on the 31st, put the ball down. We're going to be ready. This game could be really fun. I mean, I would love it not to be a blowout here. And the big matchup to me here, Joshua, is Penn State's defense and Ashton Jeanty. And then they're aware of that. And they've been talking about it. They know it's going to be like a team effort to stop him because he's very hard to bring down. So it's not just that, he's got almost 2,500 rushing yards on the season. He's actually only 131 yards shy of Barry Sanders' single season rushing record now. But he's also got a ton of yards after contact this season. He's got more yards after contact this season than most teams have this season. They're giving him Boise State credits. It's almost 1,900 yards after contact and 143 missed tackles. So Tom Allen, defensive coordinator of Penn State, he has made that point clear. Like, you got to get him down. It's going to be on a bunch of different players to do that. And it's a defense that has been good. I mean, they're 7th nationally against the run, top-ranked run defense remaining in the playoff field. But that's kind of going to be the game, because either you can slow or stop him, and the game becomes, it's on Maddux Madsen's arm to determine, or Penn State's able to control the game because Boise State really can't get anything going. But we've seen teams try to stop Ashton Jeanty, knowing that he is Boise State, and them not really be able to do it, and I'm still rusher for over 200 yards. So how do you see this matchup with Penn State's rush defense?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great matchup. I actually have kind of similar experience in a spot like this. In 2014, we played Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game. It was Melvin Gordon was the running back for the Badgers, and he was having one of those historic years. I think 2 weeks before we played in the conference championship game, he had that game where he had over 400 rushing yards against Nebraska, I think it was. He was a Heisman finalist. He was phenomenal, and we knew that our job, number one, was to make sure that he did not ruin our night. He is not the guy who can win that game for them. If somebody else on that team can beat us, we will live with that. But Melvin Gordon wasn't going to be the guy. And I think that Penn State's going to have a very similar approach when it comes to Ashton Jeanty and forcing Boise State to try to play left-handed. Now, what we ended up doing from a game plan perspective was we wanted to make sure that we were gapped out, meaning we had a player for every gap and then a free hitter in the box so we could tackle the runner. We played straight man-to-man. We lined our safeties up at 10 yards, and we said, we think our corners can hang out there on an island. We think our safeties will be able to pick up these tight ends. Linebackers can do the same thing. I wouldn't be shocked if Penn State, who's already a team that plays a ton of man-to-man, would come out in a game plan like that. But they got to tackle this dude, to your point. And he is shifty. He's elusive. He has great contact balance. He's got really good vision and patience to let plays set up too. So it's a challenge, no doubt. But I think Penn State kind of understands what they're up against. And certainly when it's a running back centric defense, if you do have that talent advantage, plus you have the right scheme, there is a way to make sure that he's not the guy who takes the game over.
Yeah, I think that is where it's going to come down to. And Maddux Madsen's a good quarterback. I think he kind of has been underappreciated or under talked about because of the run game. But that's really, I think, what it's going to come down to is what he's going to be able to do. And then, when I've talked to different defensive coordinators who played Boise State this year, they always just talk about like the wear and tear of Jeanty. Mm-hmm. So like he may not get a ton of yards in the first quarter, but he's going to get a lot of carries. So he's going to try to wear you down the longer the game goes on, and then he'll get his at some point. And we've seen that in a number of games, even games where he's eventually gotten over 200 yards in the game. Like it wasn't all from the start. But he's always capable of those long runs. So it's going to be really interesting. And then on obviously the flip side, Penn State, they didn't have a passing touchdown in their win over SMU because they had all of those pick sixes. But they've really got the run game going a lot better in the last couple of outings. And you just have to feel like confident that is going to continue to balance things out for Drew Aller. And then that they don't need to rely on Tyler Warren for literally every offensive piece of production that they have this season. And, you've got to give a huge advantage to them against Boise State's defense, which we saw give up a lot of yards and a lot of points to teams in the Mountain West this year.
No doubt. And just real quick to touch back on what you were saying about Jeanty and wearing people out. This is a game where if you're Penn State, you got to be able to show off a little bit of that depth up front to that point. So by the time you get to the fourth quarter, he's not just smacking the same guys in the face. I actually like the idea of the guys talking about how much he can wear on teams there. But flipping it over to the other matchup, Boise State defensively, certainly not the most impressive team. But it's like this Penn State offense is like this Jekyll and Hyde, where like some weeks I look at them and I'm like, damn, that's it's one of the best offenses in the country. And then other weeks I look at them and it's like, well, they're an offense. And
it looks hard. It looks hard.
It's like they got a good looking quarterback who at his top end, like first round pick, no doubt. We don't always get that. It's not always on display that same way. I thought their wide receivers played well in the Big Ten championship game. They come out and against SMU, and it's kind of like they are who they are. They're not game breakers. I don't think they need to play an A+ game against Boise State's defense to be able to move the ball and have some success. I think they need to, in terms of if they are actually going to make a run in the playoffs and be a championship team, they got to start playing their best offensive ball with consistency right now.
I completely agree. So I do think that Penn State will win this game. The number is a lot. Would you take them to cover 10.5?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, I think I might too.